Hello everyone, welcome to Yes Guy Gaming, a channel where we talk a lot about volleyball, video games, and volleyball video games, and everything in between. If you're like me, and you're a huge fan of volleyball, and you love playing video games, and you want to try to mix those two things together, you may find, like me, that it's always been tough to really track down and find easily some of the fun and interesting volleyball video games out there. You maybe not have even heard of a ton, or the ones you've heard of are always disappointing and not that fun to play. Well, today I wanted to do a video about describing some of the games that are out there that you can find and play yourselves that are potentially available for free if you are a little bit tech savvy and can find some ways to do things on your computer, or you can probably find online and order if you have some of the systems that these games are available for. So hopefully this is something you guys find useful, that you find interesting, and you can maybe track down some fun volleyball video games for you to play yourselves at home. So to jump right into it, the PlayStation 2 was kind of a golden age, it seems, for volleyball video games, particularly beach volleyball video games. We have a few really polished games that were available for that system that you can still find ways to play right now. There's PlayStation 2 emulators that are available online that you can kind of download and operate and run on your PC computer at home. I think they have Mac versions as well. That's how I managed to play some of the games I've played on this channel, is using an emulator. And then if you go out online and find the ISO files, they're called, for these games, and kind of run them through this emulator, there's guides and other information available online for how to do this. You can grab some of these retro volleyball video games and play them on your PC computer at home. You can map the controls yourself using the keyboard if you wish, but it's made even better when you can map the controller controls using your PlayStation 4 or Xbox or whatever other gamepad controller you have at home to play these games. So there's a few that I wanted to point out that I've managed to play for free, grabbing kind of online using this system. And first up is maybe one of my favorites, is Summer Heat Beach Volleyball. This one was one from the PlayStation 2 that I actually owned on PlayStation 2 back in the day. I'm not sure where we got it, but it was one of the more polished releases for beach volleyball video games. It was a little bit simple, I'll say. You kind of move the arrow around to attack, but the music was great. They had interesting characters. It was a bit sexualized, but not nearly as much as some other games. And you could pick kind of funny characters and play in co-op with a friend and go on a career mode. There was a lot here to this game that I think provides a great example for any future beach volleyball video games to take after, but certainly one that I've had a blast playing. I managed to set up 2 controllers and play cooperatively on the PC computer using 2 PlayStation controllers, which is just a blast. If you got siblings or other friends at home with you, you can kind of play those together. So super fun, Summer Heat Beach Volleyball. See if you can look up and find a way to play yourselves at home. The second game I want to highlight, also again from the PlayStation 2 era, is Outlaw Volleyball, but particularly the remixed version. This kind of gave an update to graphics and gameplay, and I think really fully realized what this game is meant to be. Now, this one is a bit more mature, obviously, if you've ever seen anything about it. It's not for the kids. It has some serious adult themes like, sexual stuff and booze references, maybe some drug references, but it's a blast to play. It kind of adds a gritty spin where you can actually fight your opponents on the other side mid-rally. There's career modes, you can unlock all sorts of different characters, and there's kind of a lot here to explore and find if you're able to find a way to play this game. Similar method to Summer Heat Beach Volleyball. I managed to play this one grabbing the ISO file online and kind of playing it through a PlayStation 2 emulator. It's also one that I used to own as well on the PS2 back in the day, but from the channel and to play online, it's certainly available out there and you're able to do it. What's kind of cool is, and I didn't know this back in the day, but Steve Carell is the announcer, and he lays down some hilarious jokes and chirps while you're playing through the game, and all the characters, while some are really offside, some are pretty funny, and the volleyball gameplay is, I'm going to say, half decent. I mean, compared to some other games out there, the button inputs and controls that you use to play this game seem to be fairly intuitive, and you can get quite good at the game doing those massive, absolute crushes to pound down on your opponents as you work your way through the game. So a fun one to play if you're able to make it happen. The final game from the PlayStation 2 era I want to point out is a game called Women's Volleyball Championship. Now, you may not have heard of this game, and I probably wouldn't have heard of this game either, but I happened to be stumbling through a Zellers way back in the day and looking through the bargain bin, if anybody knows what Zellers is, in the back of the day, looking at the bargain bin of games, and pulled out Women's Volleyball Championship for PS2. So randomly, but when I took it home, loaded it up, I was incredibly surprised. This is maybe one of the most detailed and intricate indoor volleyball games we've ever seen, and you know, playing through it, it makes sense. You can get good and kind of learn how to run all the different plays and triple blocks and serves and lineups and stuff that you would want to run in an indoor volleyball game, which is kind of surprising because we really haven't seen many out there, and indoor is a tough sport to really do well in video game form. And I think Women's Volleyball Championship, while it's not perfect and it's a bit rough around the edges, did manage to capture that energy of indoor volleyball. What's also kind of cool is you can play competitively against another player. Again, if you're able to load up 2 controllers onto your PC when you're playing this, or if you have a PlayStation 2 with 2 controllers, you can play competitively against a friend, or maybe a not so friendly friend, as you play this game, which is super cool. I mean, I couldn't really find anybody who would play against me because I played the game way more than anyone else and nobody had ever heard of it, so I'd always win. But if you got somebody at home there with you or some friends to play with, I absolutely recommend going head-to-head at Women's Volleyball Championship. So moving away from the PlayStation 2, another free game that is out there available to play, a volleyball video game, is a game called Volleyball Simulator. Now, I'll be honest, I'm a little bit selfishly throwing this one out there, but it's one that's available on a website called itch.io. I'll put the link in the description. It's a game that I worked on and made with a developer friend of mine that we kind of inputted, grabbed some art, threw it in there, and made a more of a strategy style volleyball game where you can kind of move your indoor players around on the 6v6 court and make different set choices and attack the ball where you want to go. It's kind of like a volleyball meets chess style game, and it's one that I think is pretty fun to play and has some cool stuff, and we'd love to keep working on some more, but it's free and it's out there, and there's a link you can download Mac or PC and play at home with just mouse. You don't even need a keyboard, just the mouse to click and move the players around where you want to go. So that's one. It's good for a few minutes of fun gameplay if you're interested in that sort of thing. So yeah, definitely check that out if you're interested. I'll put the link in the description. That's Volleyball Simulator, a game that I made myself. And the last game I wanted to touch on is one from the PlayStation 1 era, and is kind of one of the more fun and interesting games that I've managed to try and play on the channel or at all. Is a game called Power Spike. I think it's Power Spike Pro Beach Volleyball. It's a game that had the license for the beach volleyball athletes from the FIVB back in the day, back on PlayStation 1, to have the likenesses and images of all the top players at the time, which is really something I'm gonna say we've never seen before or after in a volleyball video game. Maybe a little bit on the indoors, but to actually have their likenesses, the names of the players that you can play it. And the gameplay is actually quite deep, giving you 3 different types of shot options. You can set up the block in any position you want. You can run basically anything you would do in a beach volleyball game. You can do here in Power Spike, which I really loved. You can get really good at hitting roll shots. You can make digs. You can do double peels. You can do double blocks if you want. You can really do anything, which makes, I think, for a lot of fun. You can play on the World Tour again. There's a lot of content here to work through. You can pick your team, play through. You can even create players and play through kind of the career mode through the FIVB World Tour, which I had a lot of fun doing, playing as the Canadian men who I know and have met and were friends. It's crazy. Put myself in the game maybe. There's a lot here if you're a fan of beach volleyball and video games. So one I would definitely check out. Again, PlayStation 1 emulators are available online. You can grab, download, and kind of run them on your PC or Mac computer, and then just grab the ISO file for the game again online and run it on your computer to kind of run this game. As well, though, Power Spike Volleyball has an online web portal where you can actually just play it. I'll try to put the link in the description to that down below, but you can just play it in the browser if you don't have an emulator, which is also super cool. So definitely one worth checking out. Well, that'll do it for this video. I hope you guys found this useful, and hopefully you're able to go out and play some of these games. It's a lot of fun to be had, especially while we're sitting at home not doing much. waiting for things to kind of open up again, and so we can get back in the gym or back out on the sand. But definitely some good and fun volleyball games out there for cheap or for free, basically. So if you have a little bit of time and put in a little bit of effort, you can kind of make that happen, and it's worth your time. There's a lot of fun to be had in some of these games that I mentioned in this video. So hopefully you guys found that useful. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. We do all sorts of volleyball, video game related, and other video game related content here on the channel. So hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. And thanks so much for watching the video, and we hope to see you next time on Yes Guy Gaming.